This is not a review lens. I actually purchased this lens from a good friend of mine. He bought the lens and used it probably twice and never used it again. So I bought it off him for 850 New Zealand dollars, or Kiwi dollars, I'd like to say here, which is around about 520 US dollars. So it's a second-hand lens, but basically it's in new condition. So this is the Voigtlander 50mm f2 APO VM, which is for the Leica M-Mount. Now the VM stands for Voigtlander M-Mount. The lens is made by a company called Christina in Japan. They make lenses and cameras, and they also make lenses for Zeiss. So right away, you know you're going to get good build quality, great optics. The lens was tested on the M11P and also on my SL2S with the Leica M to L-mount adapter. The reason I purchased this lens is because I'm thinking about buying a 50mm Summilux for my M11P. But before I made such a big investment into that lens, because it's not cheap, I thought I'd buy this because it was a really good price and see if I can get on with a 50mm. I normally shoot 28mm on my Leica cameras, especially on my MP and my M11P. I can be quite lazy. I like 28mm and I keep the 28mm. So this was a good opportunity to buy this lens and see if I like to shoot with 50mm and if I can get on with 50mm. Now I will say I've changed my mind because of this lens, and I'll talk more about that later. Now the lens is not 6-bit encoded. This is a Leica lens, and you can see down here, that's the 6-bit encoding. That tells the camera what the lens is and what model it is, what focal length, what f-stop it is, and so on. The Voigtlander has no encoding on it. So you will have to tell the camera what the lens is. So you'll have to tell it in the profiles it's a 50mm. There are a few profiles in there you can use. It's best to find which one works for you. Now, if you want to use this lens on the SL2S for video, you have to tell the camera that it's a 50mm lens or the IBIS won't work. That's something you have to do with lenses like this. If you use Leica lenses, you don't need to worry about that because basically it's 6-bit encoded. The focus is very smooth with no tight spots, and it makes it a very pleasant experience when you're focusing and you hit focus. The closest focusing on this lens is 70 centimeters, and it goes all the way to infinity, and there's hard stops either end. Now, unlike some of the more affordable Chinese lenses which go past infinity, this doesn't. This stops directly at infinity. This photo here was shot with the M11P, and I just basically focused all the way around till it stopped at infinity and took the photo. And as you can see, it's focused perfectly. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with the 60 megapixel sensor of this M11P coming from the M10P, which only had a 24 megapixel sensor. At the front of the lens is the aperture ring, which has a nice soft click, and you have half stops. At the front, I'm not sure if you can see that, there's a rubber gasket around the element. The front filter thread on this lens is 49mm, which is nice because I can use my Pro Mist filters that I use with my Leica Q3. So it's nice to be able to share filters between that camera and this lens. Now let me show you some photos taken with the M11P and the SL2S. And then I will talk about the image quality from this lens and what I think about it. The reason I shot some photos with the SL2S was I got this lens before I got my M11P. Now, one of the main reasons of buying an f2 lens is to shoot the lens wide open. Most lenses don't perform well wide open. This lens, on the other hand, performs excellent wide open. It has a really nice 3D pop, very nice contrast and saturation to the images, and very little color fringing. But it does have a very strong vignette wide open. It does start to go away if you stop it down to about f4, f5.6. Personally, I don't mind the vignetting. I think it adds a bit of drama to the image. And you can easily fix that these days in photo editing software. So it's not a problem. I would rather have the vignetting and have no color fringing than have no vignetting and have color fringing, because that's a bit hard to fix sometimes. This lens captures a lot of detail and is very sharp at f2, but then you stop it down to f8 and it will blow your mind. The level of detail that this lens can capture with this new 60 megapixel sensor on the M11P, it's just crazy. Now I've put a few of the images in a Dropbox folder for you guys to download, and a link to that Dropbox folder is down below in the description. So just click on the link, head over to the folder and download the images, and you can see the level of detail with this lens attached to the M11P. This lens punches way above its price point. And I have to say, I find myself reaching for this lens more and more. I don't shoot 50mm, I shoot 28mm. Sometimes I shoot 35mm, but most of the time it's 28mm. But because of the beautiful build quality and how smooth this focus ring is and how beautiful the images look from this lens attached to the M11, I do really enjoy using this lens. And that's what it's about. It's not about charts and brick walls and everything else. It's about getting out there and using the lens and how it makes you feel. You want to go out and shoot more with the lens and then seeing the images and being pleased with the images. Now I do have a couple of issues with this lens. The first one being it's too good. I know that sounds a bit daft, but it's so good, I'm not going to buy the 50mm Summilux or even a 50mm Summicron. I'm going to keep this lens. For the price I paid for it, it was a bargain. But even its brand new price, this lens punches way above that price. It is a really nice lens to use. The focus, the aperture ring, the optics, and especially on the M11P, the images, I just love the images I get with this lens and this camera. So I'm going to be keeping this lens and I'm not going to be buying the 50mm Summilux. Now the other issue I have with this lens is that shiny front ring on the lens, which is where the filter goes and also the lens hood. Yes, I could get rid of most of it by putting on a filter like the Pro Mist filter. That does hide most of it, or a clear B+W filter, but you still get this shiny bit around the side here. The other way to go is to use the lens hood for this lens, which you have to buy separately. It doesn't come with the lens. I don't like the style of hood that Voigtlander make for this lens, which is the petal style hood. I don't like the look of it, and I think it blocks too much of the viewfinder. On a side note, this lens hardly blocks any of the viewfinder, which is nice. By adding that hood on there, it will block quite a bit of the viewfinder. So I don't want to put the hood on there. And like I said, that's the only problem that I have, is that's a bit shiny. It's not a bit shiny, that's really shiny. But it does look nice though. You have to admit, it looks nice on the M11P. So after using this lens for a few weeks, I highly recommend this lens. If you're looking for an f2 50mm, you can't go wrong with this Voigtlander. It definitely punches way above its price point. I've watched a few videos online about the lens and everybody raved about it, but sometimes people can get a bit excited. But now I understand why everybody praised this lens. If you guys want me to do a quick comparison between the Voigtlander 50mm f2 APO and this beast of a lens from Leica, which is the Leica SL 50mm f1.4 Summilux, let me know down in the comments section. I'll do a quick comparison between these two. This is a $12,000 lens in New Zealand, but it is an incredibly good lens. Probably the best 50mm I've ever used. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This is my first review of 2024. Now, if you have any questions about the lens or even the M11P, leave me a comment down below. As always, thank you so much for watching.